Alright, so the Tropeognathus only spawns on Crystal Isle, therefore you need to go to that map to tame him. However, console players do not have Crystal Isle yet, so until September, console players can then get the Tropeognathus on any map except Genesis and Aberration. Now, the spawn locations for the Tropeognathus are on the screen right now for console. It basically spawns in the same zones as that of the Tapejara. However, do keep in mind that this guy is a rare spawn regardless. So even if you go to these areas and you don't find him, don't freak out. He's a very rare spawn. Furthermore, if you are on Crystal Isle, this will be his spawn location. So go and check out those areas to hunt him down. So in order to tame a Tropeognathus, the first thing we're going to need is a trap. Now, there are various different types of traps on YouTube. I recommend looking them all and finding the one that suits you best. If you want mine, the ingredients are going to be on the screen right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to build a trap for this guy because he's a passive tame creature. Now, what that means is we're going to need to go ahead and use this thing called a ballista turret and the ammo called chain bowler in order to bowler him down and then feed him the food he wants. Now, you're going to need to use chain bowlers because normal bowlers don't work, so you're going to need them, and you'll need the trap because this method will take some time to do, hence the trap. Anyway, let me show you how my trap works, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so you're going to need a Pteranodon, and you're going to need rare flowers. Now, rare flowers, what they do is they make all the creatures within your vicinity angry for a short period of time, but basically once you've got the Tropeognathus annoyed, fly through that little hole in the trap, then go ahead and lock the door, trapping the Tropeognathus inside, and then allowing us to continue on with the taming process. Alright, so now that the Tropeognathus is trapped, our next stage is to go ahead and chain bowler him, and then from there we'll head on in and go and feed him his kibble. That is being exceptional kibble. You can use the extraordinary kibble, which is above this, but honestly you only need the exceptional kibble because that's his preferred food, and then the other preferred foods he has are on the screen right now. Also keep in mind the food has to be in your final inventory slot in your hotbar. As you can see, I haven't fed him right away, and you're probably thinking, why is that? Because we are letting him starve tame. What this process is effectively we're letting the food drain, so then that way when the food is low enough and we go and feed him, it's practically an instant tame. Because see, how the Tropeognathus works, especially in the higher levels, is as soon as I feed him, you have to wait about 15 to 30 minutes before you can feed him again, and obviously no one wants to sit here for 5,000 years to wait to tame a creature. So one of the few methods you can do is actually, if you've got enough chain bowlers to spare, you can actually continuously chain bowler the Tropeognathus. Now, the reason we would constantly chain bowler him is while the trope is chain bowlered, he actually rapidly drains food. But when he's not chained and he's just flying around, his food drops about 1 or 2 every, second. But if you want it to be like 100, you want to keep him chain bowled. So one of the strategies is just to keep chain bowling him and keep chain bowling, which will then allow his food to drain drastically, allowing this process to be even quicker. As well as when you continually chain bowler him, he's going to be, bowled for quite some time. So it makes that process a bit easier. An alternative method is actually going ahead and shooting the creature, because in doing so then he'll lose health, and then creatures need to use their food in order to heal themselves. But anyway, once you've done whatever chosen method you want, go ahead and feed him, and then basically there you go, it's practically an instant tame. Now that was a low level one, so 1 kibble worked perfectly, but for a level 150 I've played with, it took me about 3 exceptional kibbles after just doing the chain bowler strat for about half an hour. Alright, so the details to the Tropeognathus are on the screen right now. So in terms of the differences between the rarity, what happens is, so between a primitive and ascendant, the only thing that changes is the weapon damage and the crafting cost. The armor is the exact same for all rarities. The only difference is damage and cost. Now, for me, the highest damage I have seen is 400 weapon damage. And obviously the cost gets ridiculous. Now, in terms of a PvP standpoint of view, you're going to be doing more damage to players and dinosaurs. Structures, you've got a base flat rate that is across all saddles. So for example, shooting a tech building, you're only going to do 11 damage, regardless if it's a prim or ascendant. But obviously with the players and dinos, it's going to go up depending on the rarity of the saddle. But what's funny about the structures is that you can actually do more damage to structures if you were to throw the grenade yourself rather than to shoot it through a Tropeognathus saddle. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so now let's talk about the jet mode. So in order to activate the jet mode, you're going to need to hold down on the crouch key, which is going to activate the basic version of jet mode. And then from there, if you push your left stick forward, you will go a little bit faster. Now, In terms of activating the super jet mode, from there you're going to need to now hold down the sprint key, which will then activate super jet mode. And then obviously you'll be flying around and you'll be losing quite a lot of gasoline. The stats to how much gasoline you'll be using depending on the mode is on the screen right now, so go ahead and utilize that. Now, another thing to note is that you can only use grenades when you are in jet mode. You cannot use it when you're not in jet mode. But you can use it in any mode you want. You can use it in the standard one or the super fast one, whatever you wanted to do. But when you've had enough of jet mode and you want to get out of it, you simply now need to hold the crouch key again, and it will now go ahead and disable that. So something I just quickly forgot to mention is that when you're in jet mode or in the super jet mode, if you double click the right stick, you're going to go ahead and do this cool little maneuver system, allowing you to dodge those pesky grenades. Alright, so now looking at the next ability, so this can only be done when you're using the jet mode, and basically what happens is when you're flying around a flyer, so as you can see around this Tranodon right now, it's releasing like this wind vortexy thing around it, and basically what those white waves are is when a flyer is in the air, it breaks the air pressure, and during that it causes this thing called a slipstream. And then what happens with the Tropeognathus is we can actually utilize that by holding down the A key, which is also the land and fly key. But by holding that down, you can utilize another creature's slipstream, and what that does is it will not only increase our speed, but it also increases our turning circle, allowing us to turn much tighter rather than if we weren't utilizing it, which is actually really awesome. Looking at its next ability is that it's a biological version of the grinder. Now, if you don't know what the grinder is, it's a structure where you put items in it and then you grind it down, and then you'll get a quarter of the resources it took to craft that object. So I've got 5 tech behemoth gates here that I don't need anymore. Going ahead and grind them, and there you go. Now I just got a quarter of the resources back. Alright, so now moving on to the last abilities that this Tropeognathus has. So the first off is you actually don't need a saddle to use it, which is actually pretty useful if you actually can't afford to get a saddle. And then going off from there as well, it's basically the Tape Jarrah Plus, as most people call it. And basically what that means is it's got the exact same movement speed and abilities that of the Tape Jarrah, but it also, what's quite cool is that it's got more health and weight than a standard Tape Jarrah. So that makes it pretty more useful. In terms of that, it's got 2 more abilities. It can actually carry small creatures. So if you go up to a very small creature like a Phoronix and you go ahead and hit the left trigger, you're going to go ahead and pick him up. You can also do that to players as well. So only small dinos and players you can pick up in your beak. And then the last ability is the air push ability. So in order to use this, you're going to need to get into the air, and then the key that you use to get in the air, so for Xbox A, you're going to press that twice, and then you'll activate this air push. Now, this air push will affect players and small creatures. It won't affect big creatures like these trikes or stegos. It won't do anything to them, but it will definitely affect small creatures quite a bit. Alright, so moving on to breeding. So what you got to do is simply get 2 of them together and go ahead and enable breeding. There you go. Mine's super boosted, so hence why she just breeded 1,000 times. Anyway, moving on. Head over here. You're going to need about 5 to 6 aircons I have found, and then you'll be pretty well good to go. So I'm going to drop one in. Now, the information on all the breeding and all that is on the screen right now, so to make your life a bit easier, go ahead and use that. And with that being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.